I don't know how you decide when things in a second derivative start to change, where it stops getting worse and maybe just starts getting less bad. I mean, it seemed last week like there was kind of a crescendo of negative. That's what you're going to get when you go up in front of the Senate and the House. A lot of what those gentlemen and ladies were pointing to was valid criticism of Boeing, but they do go over the top, I think, at times. The stock was up even after all of that. Was that the bottom of all of this, do you think, Ron?
Yeah, we're probably getting close to it, right? I mean, what you have to see from here is the FAA is going to approve the airplane. Once the FAA approves the airplane, then the foreign regulators will approve the airplane. Between now and the FAA approval, there's going to be some, there's going to be a couple test flights, so on and so forth.
There's going to be, I think senior executives and journalists are going to take some of those.
But I think
a lot of them.
Some of the big things that they have to deal with, right, are the brand, right? I mean, you're already seeing some of the flight attendants. I think it was the American Airlines flight attendants came out and said, you know what, they're not comfortable with the airplane. So there's going to be brand repair that has to go on. That when you think about what's on investors' minds today, it's, are they going to lose market share to the biggest competitor, Airbus, because of what's happened? What's the path forward? What impact does this have on other airplane programs, right? They're developing a new 777. What does it mean for that? So there's a lot of ripple effects that occur.
Pilots aren't ready to just sign on.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that gets back to the brand question.
I mean, I saw Southwest saying a super majority say that of customers don't check or don't even know what plane that they're flying on. Whereas I saw a poll up in Canada that 57% are uncomfortable if they were going to have to board a 737 MAX. Do people know? Do people check? Will it be hard to get customers back on these planes?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's an open question. My gut sense is probably not.
I think both polls are right. I think people don't know what they're getting on, but if you tell them, are you comfortable riding on a 737 MAX, they probably say,
a 737 looks like a 737.
Right. What's the ability to rebrand it and kind of just take the MAX out completely and say, okay, 737 Super or something different?
Yeah, they could easily do that. My sense is this, and this is probably one of the bigger risks. When the airplane goes back into service, another event can't happen, right? I mean, the aircraft's going to be...
3 strikes and you're
three
out.
strikes and you're out. Right. However, if nothing happens and the aircraft goes back into service in a very uneventful way, sooner or later the public will forget. That's my sense, right?
Sooner or later, a year, 2 years?
The other
Probably sooner than that, right? I mean, this isn't the first time you've had an issue with a commercial airplane, right? You can go back to the DC-10 or whatever. I mean, and the flying public eventually forgets. But it's key. I mean, the airplane's going to be under a microscope for probably the better part of 2 years. So, for the better part of 2 years, and there'll be about 1,000 of these things flying around. It has to be very uneventful.
And how much are they going to get squeezed by their customers going forward? Just, in the sense of Southwest doesn't have the aircraft, Ryanair doesn't have the aircraft. So how much of that's going to affect cash flow profitability going forward? And is that really baked into the stock at this point?
Yeah, part of it is. I think, when you look at the reporting in this past quarter from American Airlines and Southwest, they both suggested that the impact on their pre-tax earnings for 2019 will be on the order of maybe $600 million, right? And that's a big impact, right? So the airlines for sure are going to go to Boeing and want some sort of recuperation of that. And we're estimating in our financial model that it's probably, when you look at what the airlines are going to want, is going to be on the order of, for every month the airplane's been out of service, close to $1 billion. I mean, it's a lot of money, right? And to this point so far, Boeing's taken close to $10 billion of charges, and we expect that to rise until the airplane is fully back into service.
And what's interesting is, but this $10 billion, and we're going into kind of a late stage cycle, and as we know, the airline makers, when all of a sudden we do get a recession, when it does come, their demand falls off tremendously. So
it can, right?
And how does the balance sheet then, how is that going to be prepared for that? In your estimate, I mean, is Boeing going to be able to stand this?
For sure. Right? I think one of the things people forget about Boeing, and they're one of the largest defense contractors in the world, about 40% of the revenue is the defense business. Defense businesses are very cash generative, right? So we're not worried about Boeing's balance sheet at all. But I think the point you raise about the commercial cycle getting long in the tooth is real, right? So in this last quarter, Boeing took down their production rates on the 787, right? 787 had been produced at 14 per month. Now it's going down to 12 per month. Could it go to 10? Could it go to 8? So, are we in for a soft landing on the commercial cycle or a harder landing?